Welcome student. Good morning to all of you. This is Chadar BR, Assistant Professor of Cell Science and Agriculture Chemistry. In today's lecture we are discuss about the proteins. Protein is a polymer of a amino acid, and about amino acids we learn in last lecture. So in today's lecture we learn about the proteins. So student, what is mean by protein? Protein are important macromolecule of a cell formed by the polymerization of amino acids according to sequence of genetic code in mRNA. Protein are the mode of expression of genetic information. They perform a variety of duties in cell, such as they act as a structural component of cell, enzyme, hormone, pigment, storage proteins, and some toxics in cells. Proteins are classified into many categories based on different categories. Firstly, we see which are different criteria on the basis which proteins are classified. Okay, these criteria are three criteria. First is the structure, second is the composition, and third one is a function. So proteins are classified on basis of structure, composition, and function. So see one by one. On the basis of structure, proteins are classified as a fibrous protein, globular protein, and intermediated protein. And next class is on the basis of composition, proteins are classified as a simple protein and conjugated protein. Then on the basis of function, proteins are classified as structural protein, enzyme, hormone. Then pigment, transport protein, and contractile protein. And third one is a storage protein and toxins. Okay. Now see one by one in detail. Okay. First class is a first criteria is a structure. On the basis of structure, proteins are classified as a fibrous protein, globular protein, and intermediate protein. Now see what are the characteristics of a fibrous protein and why it is important. So fibrous protein are linear long fibers in shape. Secondary structure is the most important functional structure of a fibrous protein. So in next lecture we will discuss about the structure of proteins. In that there are four structure: primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structure. On that basis, fibrous protein are goes under to the secondary structure. Usually these protein do not have tertiary structure. Physically, fibrous protein are very tough and strong. They are insoluble in water. Long parallel polypeptide chains cross-linked at regular intervals. Fibrous protein from long fibers or sheets. Then functions of fibrous protein is to perform the structural function in the cell. For example, collagen, myosin, silk, and keratin. Okay. So next is the globular protein. Globular protein are spherical or globular in shape, whereas a fibrous protein is a long chain like protein, long chain like a shape or like a thread shape. So globular protein is a spherical or globular in shape. Next, polypeptide chain is tightly folded into spherical shape. Tertiary structure is the most important functional structure in the globular protein. We see in the fibrous protein is a secondary structural protein, whereas a globular protein is a tertiary structure of a protein. Physically, they are soft as compared to fibrous protein. They are readily soluble in water. Then most of the proteins in the cell belongs to category of globular protein. Functions: globular proteins function is forms enzymes, antibodies, and some hormones. For example, insulin, hemoglobin, DNA polymerase, and RNA polymerase. In that, hemoglobin is present in blood. Then intermediate protein. Their structure is intermediate to linear and globular structure. They are strong and more or less linear shaped protein. Unlike a fibrous protein, they are soluble in water. For a function of a intermediate protein is a blood clotting protein. For example, fibrinogen. Then next criteria of a protein classification is a composition. On the basis of composition, proteins are classified as a simple protein and conjugated protein. So simple protein composed of only amino acids, whereas a conjugated protein with a simple protein with amino acid there is a one functional group. That's why it is called as a conjugated protein. So simple protein composed of only amino acids. Proteins may be fibrous or globular. They possess relatively simple structural organization. For example, collagen, myosin, insulin, and keratin. Keratin which is present in hairs. Then conjugated protein again classified as a phosphoprotein, glycoprotein, nucleoprotein, chromoprotein, lipoprotein, and flavoprotein and metalloprotein. Okay. Now see one by one and some characteristics of conjugated protein. Conjugated protein are complex protein. They contains one or more non-amino acid compound. Means in a simple protein there is only amino acid group, but in a conjugated protein there is a one non-amino acid compound with amino acid. So it's a conjugated protein. Here the protein part is tightly or loosely bound to one or more non-protein parts. The non-protein part of these proteins are called as prosthetic group. This question will be asked in exam. The non-protein part of conjugated protein are called as a prosthetic group. It asks for 1 marks or half marks in objectives. Okay. Next point, the prosthetic group may be 1 minute. The prosthetic group may be metals, metal ion, carbohydrate, lipid, phosphoric acid, nucleic acid, and FAD. Okay. The prosthetic group is essential for biological function of these proteins. Conjugated proteins are usually globular in shape and are soluble in water. Most of the enzymes are conjugated protein. Based on the nature of prosthetic group, the conjugated protein are further classified as follows. One is a phosphoprotein. Prosthetic group is a phosphoric acid. For example, casein of milk. Then phthalate of the egg yolk. Then glycoprotein. Prosthetic group is a carbohydrate. That's why name is a glycoprotein. For example, most of the membrane protein and mucin, that is a component of saliva, is a type of a glycoprotein. Then next is a nucleoprotein. The prosthetic group is nucleic acid. For example, proteins in chromosome, structural proteins of ribosome. Then chromoprotein. Prosthetic group is a pigment or chrome. For example, hemoglobin, phytochrome, and cytochrome. Then lipoprotein. Prosthetic group is lipid. For example, membrane protein. Then flavoprotein. Prosthetic group is FAD. Full form flavin adenine dinucleotide. This full form will be asked in exam. Then example, protein of a electron transport system. Then metalloprotein. Prosthetic group is metal ions. For example, nitrate reductase. These are the conjugated protein. Then next, classification of a protein based on function. Okay. Then in that, first class is a structural protein. Now see characteristics of structural protein. It forms component of the connective tissues, bones, tendon, cartilage, skin, feathers, nails, hairs, and horns. Most of them are fibrous protein and are insoluble in water. For example, collagen, keratin, and elastin. Here shows classification of protein based on function. There, these all are the classes. First one is a structural protein. Then second one is a enzymes. Then hormone, respiratory proteins, transport protein, contract protein, storage protein, and toxins. In that, now we see structural protein. And second one is a enzyme. They are the biological catalyst. Enzymes reduces activation energy of reactant and speed up metabolic reaction in the cells. Then most of them are globular conjugated proteins. For example, DNA polymerase, nitrogenase, lipase. Okay. Then next one is the hormones. They include the proteinous hormones in the cell. Then, for example, insulin, glucagon, ACH. Then next one is a respiratory pigment. They are colored protein. All of them are conjugated protein and they contain pigment as their prosthetic group. For example, hemoglobin and myoglobin. Next one is the transport protein. What will be function of that protein? Obviously, transport of a element or nutrient or food for the body. Now see, they transport material in the cells. They form canals in the plasma membrane. They also form one of the component of blood and lymph in animals. For example, serum albumin. Then next one is a contractile protein. They are the force generated of muscles. They can contract with the expense of energy from ATP molecule. For example, actin and myosin. Next one is a storage protein. Okay. They what will be function of this protein? Of course, storage of material or energy. They act as the store of metal ions and amino acids of the cells found in seed, egg, and milk. Abundantly seen in the pulses, means legume seeds. For example, ferritin, which store ions, casein, ovalbumin, gluten of wheat. Toxins, last one is a toxins. They are toxic protein, for example, snakes venom. Okay, this whole about the classification of protein and definition. Okay, nothing is hard in this chapter. Only we have to remember all the names and example of the proteins. Okay, thank you guys. Today's class is over. We will see in next class. Thank you and have a good day.